Parents have been absolutely freaked out by the headlines about heavy metals in baby formula, and I get messages about this all the time. Here's the deal. I'm a pediatrician and mom of two, and I want to break it down for you because I know people are nervous. You have to remember that the dose makes the poison. Heavy metals are in everything. They're in breast milk, sweet potatoes, apple juice, and spinach, and the question has never been whether or not they're present. It's whether the dose hurts your baby. That's toxicology 101. So remember, water can kill you if you drink enough of it. That's not a reason to stop drinking water. Consumer Reports tested infant formulas and found heavy metals in them, and the headlines wrote themselves because everyone was freaked out, understandably. But here's what got buried. The US actually doesn't have any regulatory limits for heavy metals in infant formula. The only formula-specific standard in the world belongs to the EU, which is why a lot of people like to use EU formulas better than the United States. The highest level that the Consumer Reports found was in a formula that had about 15 parts per billion of arsenic. The EU limit is 20. The worst offender didn't even breach the EU limits. All of the formulas in the US didn't breach any of the EU standards for their formula. So even though we don't have our own standards, we didn't even breach the toughest standards out there. In addition, Consumer Reports' own food safety researcher said out loud that every formula they tested is safe to feed your baby. Look, it makes sense. Consumer Reports wants the FDA to set limits, and honestly, that fight is worth fighting. I do think, though, that their headlines are written to create urgency for the policy change and not whether to help you decide what formula to feed your baby. That's the job of you and your pediatrician and the data that's out there. And the data says don't switch your baby off of formula that's working just because a headline was focused on regulatory changes and happened to leave that number out. I understand the fear, I understand the nerves, but when you actually look at what this is looking at, it's okay to stay on that formula.